I passed some of these out. I think we've got a few left. Anybody need one that didn't get one? A little bit about us real quick. I don't want to bore you too much. We've been around karting for a long time. Too long. I think my dad bought my first go-kart in 1964-ish. And I've been playing with go-karts ever since. We import go-karts from Italy. This is an Italian-made go-kart. It is metric in design with a few ASC parts. And those ASC parts mount the motor to the motor mount. That's it. So everything you do on this go-kart will be in metric. The go-kart is a performance go-kart. It's purposely built for the e-kart system, but it is a comparable go-kart to what we race every day. It handles the same, with the exclusion of adding 400 pounds total weight to it. You'll notice there are no shock absorbers. A go-kart uses your human body as a torsion bar and as a way to move center of gravity. So a go-kart is very complex. You see them in yards and totally different machine. Going back on the tools that you're going to need to put the go-kart together. The worst thing that can happen to you at an event or a practice day is you taking a tool that you might have gotten from Dollar General or any dollar store. They typically don't last, and they will more than likely round your bolt off. And once that happens, unless you have a tap and die set, your day's pretty much messed up. So I encourage you to buy good hand tools, Craftsman tools, if you want to pay lots of money, Beta tools, but very good tools. You don't need a lot, and I've listed those on that page. I'm going to go over them real quick. You need wrenches. You need two 10mm wrenches, one 11, two 13mm, and a 17mm wrench. And by the way, these are sort of a decent tool, but you'll notice it has a ball end. You don't want to buy ball end Allen wrenches because they will snap off. You want to buy, if you can, T handles or L handles. Beta tools are really, really nice tools and they last forever, but they're stupid expensive. You need a 35 chain brake. Chain, or your drive chain, is number 35 chain. If you buy them, sometimes they'll come with a master link. You don't want to ever use a master link. You actually want to use a tool that will put that together, cut it, and assemble it. So there are no master links, and you are at the right length of chain. Too much, sometimes you get away with it. Not enough, it'll be so tight you'll lose all kind of horsepower, and as the chassis flexes, you're more than likely going to throw the chain. So real important that you buy one of these. They're fairly inexpensive. Let's talk about a dead blow hammer. A normal hammer, a metal hammer on a aluminum or soft steel, will egg shape it and you'll never get the part in or out. So if you can, buy a dead blow hammer. Try not to use a hammer on a go-kart, period. But if you have to do it, this is the hammer that you would want to buy. You will need one of these. I think last year a lot of schools shared one. This is how you will bleed your brake system. You have to have one of these, or you have to have access to one of these. They are a gravity bleeder. You cannot pressure bleed a go-kart. It is gravity bled on this brake system. Measuring. This is a spindle off of a go-kart. You'll see it has a rake to it. And then of course spacers will go in here to change the wheel going in and out. Your tie rods and heim joints fit here, and that changes, you can, that'll change caster and camber. So you will need a way to set whether you're going to be 2 millimeter open. It's hard to do showing you this one. Open or closed. We typically run open, so the wheels will be, instead of straight, they will be like this, 1 millimeter aside. You can get away sometimes with more, but typically it's either going to be fairly straight up or 1 mil open both sides. The way you would do that, you guys can build these, buy them. They're very inexpensive plates. Your hub would mount to it. Everybody can see that? And then as you're adjusting it, you take a tape measure side to side and center. And that would give you 1 mil open, 2 mil positive. If that makes any sense? These are very expensive, or excuse me, very inexpensive. And once again, you're welcome to take one of these, get a pattern off of it, and bring it back to me, but make your own. If you want to do it very precisely, you buy a set of lasers. And these will snap on the end. And then you can actually do it a little more professional. That makes a lot of sense. This would be going this way, by the way. Okay? Another way to adjust caster camber. The chain aligner. The first year we saw you guys run, I think it was at, it didn't turn out too well. And most of the reason why it didn't turn out well was because the chains weren't out of line. So when the cart went out on the track, some of them made a half a lap, some of them made a lap, 2 laps, but eventually the chain fell off. You can use a straight edge, which would go off of your gear, like that, to measure, or you can buy a laser aligner that would do the same thing. Off of the gear to the front gear in the center, and then you know the chain's aligned. Chain tension, again, I keep repeating this, but it's very important. Too tight of a chain, you're not going to have a good day. Extremely loose chain, you may get away with it. You hit a bump, you're more than likely going to lose a chain. So you have to find that happy medium. And in this, I think I've given you guys some tips on how that works. I actually got ahead of myself. Let's talk about spare parts for the go-kart. If you guys were to get into a wreck, and the tracks that we're running on right now are extremely wide, but it will happen. Eventually somebody will spin, somebody won't be paying attention, and they'll hit somebody and possibly knock the corner off of it. You probably want to have a spindle, some tie rods, and a steering shaft, minimum. Because it will happen. You'll bump something, and they're meant to bend so they don't tear up the chassis. They're not extremely soft, but they are soft by nature. So you're going to want to have at least the right and left time joint, right and left tie rod end, right and left spindle, a steering shaft, brake pads depending on how hard your driver is. My daughter is it's ridiculous how many brake pads we go through. Seat struts that hold the seat to the chassis. It's another tuning aid. It'll allow you to get more lateral bite. If the cart is loose, you can use a seat strut to tighten it up. It's just a tuning aid, very, very inexpensive. If you want to get technical, you can build your own. I would advise getting an extra axle at some point in time. They are different. This is I believe, a white axle. Is that what we ran in there? It's a very soft axle. Temperatures that day at IMS weren't really, really hot, and that axle worked better than a typical harder blade axle. So once again, it's a way to tune the go-kart to your driver. It's a very easy fix. If the go-kart isn't handling well, you pull the axle out, put a different axle on. And let's talk about, last thing real quick, and I'm going to get you guys showing this. Some of the goals that we've established for ourselves this year. Right now, I think we're in the 5 states with the program. We want this to be across the country. Right now it's in UK, I believe. We're in UK. So eventually this thing is going to start growing by leaps and bounds. It's already surpassed where I thought it would be in a year. But we're going to start marketing this and pushing it to other schools and other states. So our goal this year is to get you more track time. And to do that, we're trying to find ways that you guys can run these go-karts possibly, and I'm just saying this out, possibly in your school, like an IHSAA event. You would host an event, schools would come there, they would register, we would accrue points, and at some point in time, all these points would determine how we go forward into Danny's World Finals. There's going to be too many go-karts to put on the track pretty soon. And when you start adding 50 plus states, plus across the pond, we're going to have to wait to narrow that down to the guys that are the best of the best, if you will. So the system's being put in place right now. We're going to try to do some kind of a safety program. Maybe we would certify a school system or a school or a person that would host this race. We know cost is a big factor. We know the IMS cost was pretty exorbitant for the amount of track time you got. But you cannot rent a go-kart track in this country, most places, for under $3,000 to $4,000 per day. If you equate that to entries, it makes it very cost prohibitive to have a race at a go-kart track. You guys all have these huge parking lots that with a little bit of work could be made into a perfect event for these go-karts. So you don't have to travel to Newcastle. And this is just some stuff that we're trying to throw out so that you guys understand that we are working hard to make sure you run these go-karts more than once or twice a year. It's in our best interest, I think, from a standpoint of us selling this to the community, that you have the opportunity to run this hard as you want or as few times as you'd like to. So, okay?
How many of you are from Central Indiana? All right. Well, I have been talking with the Marion County Fairgrounds because they have a very large area that they don't use. They use it 10 days out of the month, and it's their pathway or walkway that goes through their midway. Somewhat resembles a road course. There's a few corners that they have it that are 90 degrees. If they made those into sweeping corners, my point is, we're even looking at this as an option to say, okay, if you redo this, and what Bill and I go out and look at and tell them, here's what we think, you redo that. We have another track that we could use the rest of the year for practice and possibly another regional race there as well. And you don't have the distance to travel, and when it's open time, it's pretty much accessible most of the days of the year. So we're looking at things like that. If the areas where you live, if you think there's similar opportunities or something that maybe somewhere we should talk to, please get a hold of Bill or I, and we'd love to do that. We'd love to establish more tracks and more locations that would make sense for our group to run at. So if you have any ideas as you go forward, never hesitate to reach out to either one of us to let us know, hey, you might want to follow up on this one or take a look.
Once again, the idea is to get you more track time, and then as you're going to learn with the go-kart, seat time is extremely important to your driver. From an academic point, there's so much that you can learn and teach kids by having the data available and doing charts and graphs off of just tire temperatures, for example. It's just, the world's open, and this is a very unique opportunity for everybody in this room to get involved in Homestead on a very fun level. So, like Danny said, if there's an opportunity somewhere that you know of something, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll explore that. Part of the, if you will, we're going to talk about this real quick. Communication is very important. Today, Danny is extremely busy selling this product. He's got EJ and Stuart working, and sometimes we have a hard time getting information passed back and forth because there's lags between them getting it and us talking about it. This forum that I think we're going to try to mount or attach to the Purdue evgrandprix.org will allow you guys to have interaction between Danny, Stewart possibly on the STEM Academic Challenge. There's an opportunity there to talk to us about technical problems. There'll be news, there'll be current events, and it is an open forum, so you can post. Once you get approved to post, you'll be able to post questions, suggestions. We're all about suggestions. We're trying to make sure that you guys have a more, the communication flows much better than it's been in the past. And a lot of that is on us. We've been very busy. We do other things, and sometimes we don't have the opportunity to touch base with you guys and ask how things are going. Now you can simply type into there, say, hey, I've got a question, or better yet, where does this bolt go? There are no instructions in the go-kart box. This is a work in progress. I think, Blake, you're addressing that with a exploded view.
Schematic, yeah, working with Italy on having them put together like an exploded view schematic. So it easily gives everyone a general idea of the name of the part and how where it goes.
So that'll make it a little bit easier for you guys to assemble the go-kart. But once again, those things we haven't been able to address. And sometimes when you're putting them together, it would be nice if you knew the answer right now instead of 3 or 4 days down the road. So when you leave a post on that, it immediately goes to email and we get the notification instantly. And somebody will address it. Same with Danny. If there's a question that you really need to get hold of Danny, don't hesitate to post it there. We'd love to talk to you guys about it. It is an open forum. We expect you guys to use proper English. Let's do it that way. There's no profanity. Any of that stuff gets put on the website. You just get knocked off and never be back on again. So use it as a tool and not a way to talk about who's coming to homecoming and who's not coming. Any questions for me? I know I do this really fast, but I want to get you guys into the technical side. And more importantly for me, I want to have a round table about cost and what makes a good event. And what didn't you like last year if you went to it? We're trying to make this a little bit better for everybody, including the work that we put into it from Purdue and from our side of it. So I'm going to turn this over to my son Billy. He's going to show you how to assemble a go-kart. And I can't preach this enough. You've got to pay attention to how you put a go-kart together. It has to be free. If you want this thing to be just a toy you go play with, it doesn't matter what you do to it. If you want it to be a competition go-kart, the way it was intended to be, putting the go-kart together is extremely important. The axle should just pull in and out. You should not ever have to beat an axle into a go-kart. If you're doing that, something is wrong. It'll go in. You hit it enough, trust me, it'll make its way through. But that's not the way you assemble a go-kart. So with that being said, Billy, you want to take over that part of it? You guys want to just kind of gather around that go-kart?